This pretty good coverage is brought to you by Power Grip, the official retail partner of the European Pro Tour.
Hello and welcome back to the EPT All-Stars in Mijas. This is the round 2 back 9 from Disc Golf Park Mijas, just outside of Fuengirola, Spain. It's the last event of the season for most of these international players, and we have a very interesting, talented, skilled lead card with Pekka, Hyvönen, Hjalte, Jensen, Niko, Rättyä and Silver Lätt. And as you guys saw on the front 9, Pekka Hyvönen is keeping the pace. He didn't shoot the hottest of front 9s. As you can see, multiple players behind him shooting better than his 4 under. And the field is getting tighter. It's really anybody's game at this point. Just need to shoot a hot back 9. It's a very scoreable back 9, just like the front 9 was. This course really never gets too difficult. In these conditions, the wind is down, temperature is perfect at around 23-24 degrees. It's sunny, it's warm. We're starting on hole 10. A relatively short 90-meter hole. You're going over a huge valley, but the basket is about on the same height as the tee pad, so really no uphill, no downhill to speak of. Maybe just the slightest bit of uphill, now that I think about it. There's a huge slope in front of the basket, so you would like to be on that top tier, right next to the basket, or just a couple of meters long. There's a lot of room on the left side. Most players are actually shaping some sort of a left to right moving shot, as we see Hjalte here with a nice powerful forehand. And that's a great shot. Beautiful distance control. It's so hard to not hit one of the backside rock walls going with that forehand and still landing it on top of the first tier. Silver there, leaving it just a bit short. If he got lucky, he might have stuck on the hillside, which is still a very makeable putt. Not easy, but shouldn't be a problem for him, as Pekka here almost acing the basket. He's not that much of a forehand player. We did see a couple of forehands from him on the front 9, but everybody else on the card more comfortable with the forehand. And Niko there, that's a beautifully low driven shot. Hits the top of the hillside, and looks like everybody is going to be inside the circle, assuming that Silver did stick, and just as I said that, looks like he has actually rolled down the hill, and that's gonna be an easy par for him. Not any bigger damage done there, although it is definitely a hole that you would like to pick up, as really is any hole in these conditions. That's a good putt from Niko, and this hole is playing more than 0.3 strokes below par on average, so definitely a hole you would like to pick up. Almost half the field getting a birdie here. And looks like it's gonna be 3 out of 4 guys on our card. And Silver just barely leaving the drive short. That's what happens sometimes on this course. You really can never know. If you let any chance for the disc to roll down, it almost always will. A lot of the greens are so sloped, they're so severe, you can really never land safe unless you're perfectly flat on the top of the green. Although, for example, on this hole that is almost impossible to do. Hole 11 being a pretty short one, only at 78 meters. Otherwise the hole is very simple. You just throw over the initial trees, try to crash down near the basket, but what makes this hole slightly difficult is that you don't really know how the ground play is going to work out. You can land flat, but you can always hit a rock that's gonna bounce your disc to the right. It's sloping so hard from left to right, it's almost impossible to not get even a little bit of roll down that hill. And unfortunately, perfectly demonstrated there from Hjalte. Landing on the high side of the basket, but he has rolled way down the hill. Pretty much removing any chance at a birdie for him. And Pekka here, good looking shot. Does he get the sit? Yes, he does. I'm sure it stings a little bit to be Hjalte at that moment, as Pekka throws pretty much the identical shot, just getting a result worth one stroke better. And Niko actually doing something interesting. There is that a bit of a plateau on the left side of the basket where the disc is not likely to roll down, and Niko was able to hit exactly that spot. And looks like Silver was going for the same spot, but he's gonna have a pretty open, slightly tricky uphill putt. And Hjalte there, running the basket. Even that one almost trying to roll down the hill. Definitely a scary green if you're landing against the hillside with a hyzer. So Silver has to make sure to hit the basket. And luckily, staying there. This is extremely downhill from Niko. And sit down, it does sit down luckily. But pretty surprising to see 3 pars on the hole by the card. And only Pekka throwing a good shot and also getting a good reaction off the ground. Able to tap in that birdie. That's something on this course that it's just inevitable that you sometimes need a little bit of good breaks to get the birdies. You know, a lot of these holes have the potential to really screw you up with a bad break if you go rolling down the hill. But you just have to believe within 3 rounds all of the luck factor is going to even out between the players. And all you can do is just pick the highest percentage shot, the one that's least likely to roll down. Especially important here on hole 12. There's this tiny peninsula of a fairway that you absolutely have to land on. If you're not landing on the fairway that's marked with the lighter color there in the drone shot, you're going to be either skipping or rolling down. Most players here going with a low overstable forehand. That's a good shape for this hole, and Pekka almost getting it to the fairway, but he's slightly more to the left than he would like, and that disc, if he was lucky, he did stay on the hillside, but if he was not lucky, that might be all the way down the hill. That's just the nature of this hole. And Hjalte, this looks a little bit long, needs to sit down. And that's exactly what I was talking about. If you're not on the top of that fairway, there's really no telling where your disc will actually go. And Niko here, kind of on the opposite side. Looks like he did also get a bad roll. He's rolling down the hill right now, and only time will tell how far down there did he go. Let's see if Silver can get the correction. Not exactly. Hit it super low on some of those early bushes, but actually looks like he did stay up the hill there. Not the easiest layup here though, but he makes good work of that. And everybody else on the card having way tougher approaches. Hjalte even having to go with an overstable forehand. And that was just poorly thrown there. going over the hillside and also too far left. And Pekka here, what is he doing? Just letting the wind that has suddenly picked up a little bit getting hold of the disc. And it looks like both Hjalte and Pekka are almost likely to be taking bogeys here, unless they can make some incredible putts on this one. That's not gonna be the case for Hjalte. He's gonna be dropping one back, as Niko has a birdie putt here. And that looks bad. That might be rolling down the hill. Although it looks like as Pekka is going first, he must have stayed somewhat near. And that's just a scary putt. With the unexpected wind coming out of nowhere, it was a calm day mostly. There was not much wind on a lot of the holes, and if there was, it was from a very favorable direction. But not on this hole, as looks like we're gonna have 3 bogeys on the card. All 3 of Pekka, Hjalte and Niko carding the birdie. Excuse me, the bogey. And Silver probably feeling quite good about his layup right now. Now, this is one of the most satisfying holes to throw, I feel like, of the season. We're going way downhill, 165 meters, probably playing closer to 135. It's so far downhill. The basket has a great backstop both behind it and on the left side, so if you're a right-handed player throwing that flat to hyzering overstable disc to the green, you can almost give it a bit of an ace run and still be right next to the basket. I feel like it's also a pretty good measure of distance. If you have a lot of distance, you can take that more overstable disc, but if you're somebody with a smaller arm, you have to play a bit of a flip to get all the way there. And as you can see there, Silver not quite able to push it far enough. He's gonna have a tricky 15-meter putt down the hill. Let's see if Pekka can correct on that, going with a Halo Destroyer, as he usually does, as his main distance driver right now. And what a nice shot, flashing past the basket, only gonna have about 6 meters, going way downhill though, so that's not a tap-in, even though the distance looks very short. He's going about 2 meters down if he wants to hit the chains. And Hjalte here, a big hyzer, also hyzering out a little bit early. Both him and Silver are going to be in that circle 2 range, very makeable, and once, pretty rarely for this course, this hole actually has that very safe green. On this one you're not worried about any sort of a roll away. And that's a nice shot from Niko there. Able to flip it up slightly. Beautifully done inside the circle. Really on this hole the difficulty is not getting the par. There's not a lot of bogey potential as it's completely open and with the 0 OB. But it's not the easiest birdie to get. Only about the 4th of the field getting the birdie. And that's a common result there from both Silver and Hjalte, just being in circle 2. And Niko with an unfortunate miss inside the circle there. Which means that Pekka will be taking a stroke on the entire card. I'm sure he's not particularly unhappy about that, as his lead is now growing to 4 strokes, at least over his own card mates, We don't know what the other cards are doing right now. There was plenty of people very close to that second, third and fourth position. So it's still pretty reasonable to expect that these guys have to birdie multiple holes if they want to stay on the lead
First sign up
card.
for a PDJ membership, you're given a PDJ number. Your PDJ number is a stamp for when you got involved in the sport. It's a badge of pride for players and a part of your disc golf identity. Get your number today. Visit pdj.com/join.
And this is an interesting hole here, hole 14. Once again, a very short hole. And as expected on this course, once again there's a lot of room high. You can really choose any sort of line you want, but most players are going for a forehand hyzer, just to not challenge this one tree in front of the basket. And important thing here, you see the white stakes at the front. The white stakes are actually surrounding the basket at around, depending on the side, about 7 to 15 meters away. And everything outside of those white stakes is considered hazard. So you need to be inside of the stakes to not get that penalty. Pekka with a Firebird forehand. Nicely played there. He's gonna have just a short putt left for the birdie. And silver as well. Going just slightly long. Gonna be a bit more of a scary putt, even though still very close from the basket. And no surprises from Hjalte, once again going with that super overstable Discmania tilt. Trying to control the distance, though he's gonna have a very intimidating putt from that 10-meter range. He might even lay it out from there, as we see Niko with a nice forehand. Everybody on the card looking to be in bounds on this one. And oh, actually, Hjalte is much closer than I thought. Only about 7 meters left. And that needs to sit. He was able to sit down. But that's a disappointing miss. And silver as well. Looks like they are actually dealing with some wind right now. You could see that disc. It was definitely high left out of the hand, but the wind not really helping it either. As we're gonna have 2 birdies by both Pekka and Niko. And Hjalte and silver dropping a stroke with a par. It's really the theme on this course. In these calm conditions, every time you take a par, you feel like you're kind of losing something. And believe me or not, we're moving on to the most difficult hole on the course. Hole 15. Only 100 meters, once again completely wide open. Really the difficulty on this one is the distance control and the line control. If you're landing at all right off the basket, there's this steep slope sloping towards the right. And as everybody is going to be throwing that backhand hyzer, hitting that right side slope with the backhand hyzer means roll away down the hill almost every single time. So that's the reason why most players are trying to play slightly left off the basket to hit the left side hillside to hopefully stay close. We saw Pekka there not quite committing. He was too tight on the line. He's only gonna have a layup from there. And Niko a little bit short. Also gonna be a tricky putt with those bushes in front of the basket. It's just incredibly difficult on this one to control the distance, to get it far enough where you are not behind one of those bushes, but also don't go too far, because the ground behind the basket where the cameraman is standing is sloping away. So far 3 shots, nobody really perfectly in position, even Silver going all the way up the hill. And that's a good looking shot from Hjalte. He's gonna have a putt similar to Niko. He's gonna have that bush to contend with though, so definitely not an easy putt. And as I mentioned, that ground slightly sloping away behind the basket, not a putt you would particularly like to run unless you're sure you're gonna hit the basket. And that's the problem there. Niko not quite hitting the basket, and now he's gonna have a long-ish comebacker. And same for Silver, even rolling down the hill. Let's see if Hjalte can do it, and no! Going all the way to circle 2. Nobody really able to make it on this one. And not the comebacker either. You can see Hjalte getting slightly frustrated. Anytime you hear Hjalte speaking Danish on the round. And Silver missing! What is going on here? I'm very surprised with everybody. Even Niko missing. What's going on, guys? This is the lead card. Well, with the scores that the other 3 guys besides Pekka are shooting on the round, it's likely that they're not going to be on the lead card in round 3, unfortunately for them. But that's what happens on this course. If you're not birdieing, you're losing. Yeah, as I was saying about Hjalte, if you ever hear him talking in Danish during the round, it's probably not because he's doing super well. We're moving on to the 3rd last hole of the course. Once again, a very short hole. They really love these 75 to 80 meter holes on this course. And this is one of them, going extremely far uphill. Difficulty on this one is controlling the distance and the line. You really don't want to fade that far left, because you have that OB line on the left, about 10 meters left side of the basket, but there's also the fence on the right. So if you go long right, you might go over that fence and find yourself OB as well. The distance here, it says 78 or 75 meters on the card, but playing closer to 110 with that steep uphill. We saw Pekka. He played a pretty safe shot. He kept very low, not giving any chance for the disc to go OB right or left. And Niko with a similar thing, keeping it slightly short. And Silver as well. That's a good shot. Even though from the tee that shot looks like it's probably 10 meters short, he's actually well in the circle. It should be a very makeable putt. As well as Hjalte, once again going with that. That is either the splice or the tilt. Couldn't quite tell. Nevertheless, a very overstable fairway driver. And this is a nice moment for Pekka to get one more birdie. He's already 8 under on the round. He's shooting, can't say a sneaky round, but I feel like he's had a lot of short putts for the birdies. And still has a chance to even go double digits under par. As Niko as well. Gets it to drop. It's not the round he would like to have, but still a couple of very birdieable holes left to save some of the score. And this is just tough to see, man. Hjalte is a very strong putter normally. Not the guy you see missing putts. Especially in the wind, I feel like Hjalte has one of the better putts for the wind. He has that flat, spinny delivery, very confident release. And as I spoke about Hjalte's putt, Silver also making good birdie there. Well done by the card, and we're moving on to a hole that they would definitely like the birdie. 114 meters, once again wide open. These guys are going to go with that big backhand hyzer, either a flat overstable disc or more of a glidey hyzer from further out to the right. Really the difficulty on this one is controlling the distance. You don't want to be long at all because there's a strong slope behind the basket sloping away. But also if you're too short, you're gonna be putting towards that strong slope. So really just pick your poison, whether you want a difficult drive or a difficult putt. And Pekka there, not quite able to decide, landing short side of the basket but skipping far. And that's gonna be a difficult one to make from there. Let's see if Niko can correct on that. And he can. That is kind of the ideal play here. Leave it 5 meters short, no chance of going over the berm. But also short enough putt where he's probably going to make that with no problem. And Silver there on the right side. Very good angle to putt from actually, since he's not looking at the slope. Hjalte, this looks a little bit short. It's gonna be a scary putt. He's gonna be looking diagonally throughout, or not throughout, but towards the slope rather. It's gonna be a putting contest for the guys here. Pekka starting, not quite committing, and he's gonna pay the price for it with a longer comebacker than he would like. Look at the beautiful view there, and a beautiful putt from Hjalte. He's very frustrated right now for good reason, but that's a good putt to make. Putting himself that one stroke closer to the lead. You know, this being a very high level tournament, the field was super high level. I feel like I believe there was at least 15 to 20,000 rated players. So the guys know that it's going to be tight near the top. Every stroke matters, even for guys like Hjalte, Niko and Silver, who have kind of fell back off the pace of Pekka. They still know that they have to make every stroke count. And this is Niko for birdie. Well done there, moving to 5 under on the round. It's crazy how yesterday, if you shot even par, your round was rated 1014. But today, shooting a 5 under was not even 1000 rated, just showing off how different this course is in the COM. And we're moving on to the final hole, hole 18, a big bombing par 4 of a finishing hole, 201 meters. Really off the tee, you just want to get as far down there as possible without flipping the disc to the right. There is that big pole that you have to go left of. It's working as mandatory.
Okay, thank you guys. Good luck. Good luck at the last.
Thank you. Good luck.
As I was saying, big pole working as mandatory on that right side. So try to throw something glidey and straight. There was a great tailwind on this one, and you can see Niko just absolutely smashing a drive out there. That's a good 165 meters. He's gonna have a very short, easy approach to, no surprises, the very sloped green. And Silver actually, he has faded out left, There's a bit of a valley there. It's not going to be a great position to be in, but I believe he still has a good chance to get up and down with some sort of an Anheuser forehand or overhand. And Hjalte there getting over the valley. Very far shot for him as well. And let's see if the leader, Pekka, can finish in good fashion here. Looks to be challenging the right side. Needs to fade left before the Mando. That's gonna be just fine for him. He's gonna have to shape a left to right moving shot from there. But he got so far down there that it really shouldn't be any sort of a problem for him. Silver, he actually did have a really good stance, was just able to go with the basic hyzer forehand. And he's gonna have a good look to end the round with a birdie. That's what you wanna do. He's gonna have a chance to take that turkey finish. And Hjalte! What an incredible run, going at the basket, knowing that there's a great backstop behind. Hitting the chains, but not quite sticking in, unfortunately. He's gonna have a birdie finish, and looks like Pekka has a great chance to do that as well. What a showman he is. And almost throwing it in. Niko being one of the most known characters in the Finnish disc golf scene and international disc golf scene. The guy that everybody loves, and for good reason. Everybody on the card being great guys. And that was Pekka for a birdie, putting it to the band and the chains. He's gonna have a 9 under round. What a great round. Following that 7 under round with a 9 under. Obviously 9 under in these conditions being way easier than 7 under in the first rounds. Tough wind. And Silver also with that turkey finish. Everybody on the card gonna finish out with a birdie in style. Well done there on hole 18. And just look at the separation between the card and Pekka Hyvönen. Pekka Hyvönen being a guy that hasn't really won a huge tournament. He's not used to leading a big tournament like this. And leading not only over the card but also over everybody else. He's 3 strokes clear of Nestori Tuhkanen, shooting a great 10 under round. Just behind him Alden Harris and Jakub Semerad, also shooting double digits under par. Well played, and you can see the scoreboard is filled with 10s and 9s and 8 unders. We're gonna have an exciting finish to the tournament in round 3. Is it going to be the inexperienced Pekka Hyvönen holding off the more experienced veterans of winners? You'll see that in round 3. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm excited to see how this folds out.